Hello and welcome to another episode of Crypto Time. My name's James Coughlin and I'll be your host today, including my usual co-host, Antonio Shillingford. How are you today, mate?
I'm doing perfectly fine. How about yourself?
I'm very good, mate. I'm very good. Today's going to be a good one. We are addressing the elephant in the room around Facebook and Libra coin. There's been a lot of discussion around it on social media platforms as well as general media platforms across the board. So it's well worth, I think, a dig into. So yeah, without further ado, we will get straight into this episode. But one thing I must say first is please always do your own due diligence before getting involved in any new investment, and do not accept this as investment advice. So yeah, Libra coin.
Yeah. So of course we've been seeing a lot of information coming out recently about Libra, the structure, etc. They've of course released their white paper and quite refreshingly provided a lot of details. Because of course we see a lot of these other white papers from these various different projects that give very small amount of details, and even on the small amount of details that they provide, they don't actually even follow through with it.
Exactly.
So it's just refreshing to see a corporate structure behind documentation.
No, I'd agree. So I think really it would be nice to tuck into exactly what this coin is about and how they're looking to obviously go to market. Now, Facebook are obviously the main kind of individuals behind this, the main company behind it, to ensure that they are looking for a stable coin is the main kind of objective really of this coin, to be quite honest. What they feel is that other cryptocurrencies that are out there are very volatile, and what they feel is a stable coin could actually utilize and be utilized across the board in a much safer and secure way than what cryptocurrencies have. We have opinions on this, but we'll tuck into that a little bit later through the segment. But yeah, one thing I want to make very clear is this is not a decentralized project. Facebook itself will have a partnership involved where they will actually dictate which way this project goes forward. So it's very much not the same way that we know Bitcoin today or we know other cryptocurrencies, where we have a decentralized system in which people vote in which way the project is going to go forward.
Yeah, there are definitely some telltale signs on how this is completely different from other things that are in this space at the moment. Even the way that the stable coin is structured. So of course, we're very used to the stable coins that are currently in circulation within the cryptocurrency space. A lot of them are just literally dollar pegs. So you deposit $1, that means that this stable coin resembles the $1. The way that they've structured their stable coin, Facebook and the Libra token, of course, association even, is it's a basket. So it's attached to a basket of different currencies that they haven't, of course, announced, but is going to most definitely be the larger currencies that are out there.
So it'd be like GBP, Euro, USD, all those kind of things. I think it makes a lot of sense in the background as to what they're trying to achieve. I think that stabilization of certain currencies could come into the mix when it comes to things like Brexit that's coming up and stuff like that. Could affect the euro, could affect the GBP. But as we know, that's not going to be a case like what we see within the cryptocurrency sphere, waking up the next morning and sometimes losing 20% of the value of a certain asset. I don't feel like that is going to be the same stance with obviously what Facebook and Libra coin are trying to achieve. Other notable points to this are they're looking to launch by middle of 2020, which is going to be interesting. Not only that, but you've got David Marcus that's behind the project, very famous from the kind of payment realm and world in relation to PayPal, has done some fantastic things over there, and obviously was looking to move across to obviously Facebook. Now, the interesting point I find about this is why, for example, Facebook were looking to obviously employ it, an individual such as him. I think that was not so clear at the start. I think that we could certainly see a path that they were trying to take, and this has definitely become sort of truth now throughout the segment. So it's interesting.
Yeah, because to be honest with you, there's a lot of whys with this whole structure in general. Anyway, we'll tuck into that a little bit later on in the episode because it's going to be very much theory, because of course nothing is actually out there. But so of course, just to explain how the association and the whole structure in general actually just works, you have the two different variations of coins. You of course have one being the stable coin, which is going to be for the retail people. And then you have the other coin, the investment coin. And this is going to directly be correlated to the people, these major companies that are actually going in and setting up validators. So invest in the $10 million to set up structure and validate transactions effectively. Now, what that token is going to be, it is going to be pretty much kind of the same sort of thing, a basket where these people are going to be able to get a return from it, but it's going to be directly linked just to those people that have invested the money.
So let's just mention about who those people are. I think that's a good point to push into at this point. We've got MasterCard, we've got Visa, we've got eBay, we've got Uber, we've got Vodafone, we've got PayPal, just to name a few. Obviously, some of those people there are massive powerhouses within the payment sector, such as MasterCard and Visa. One thing that I did notice, though, which I think is quite notable for this, is that there hasn't been a real major tech company take on board. The tech companies involved, don't get me wrong, but I'm talking about the real big ones, haven't jumped in as of yet. This could come though, because they're looking to obviously go through and go up to about 100 different validators and investors into this. The other thing which we should make clear is that the minimum investment for them to do this is $10 million US. It's not capped at 10 million. They can go above that. But that is something that obviously is a criteria they're looking for the investment side of the coin, rather than, for example, the Libra token.
Each one of these validators, I completely understand the amount that, of course, they want people to invest, because at the end of the day, if you've got people there being validators, you want the best of the best.
Yep.
So of course, with that comes expenses.
Yep.
Now, the structure of how the association is and how it's pretty much proof of stake-esque is that all of these different companies, no matter how large you are, no matter how much money you've invested, you can only have a maximum say of 1% voting power, so to speak. So no matter who you are, only amount that you can have in terms of percentage, maximum you can have is 1%, meaning that Facebook has put itself in the exact same position. It is very much put itself in the mix of all of these different companies. So in theory, of course, according to the documentation that they've released, they don't have any more say than what anyone else does.
And that's something that they've made very clear across the board since they've obviously launched the white paper. It's been something that they want to very much make clear to people, is that Facebook are in no way, shape or form the absolute controllers of this project. Yeah. Yes, they're the people that kind of headed it to market. And yes, of course, they're involved in making sure that these other validators come on board. But it's not the case that they're looking to be the sole kind of leaders of this project.
But just to jump in there, on the validators, of course, you have to meet a certain criteria to actually be accepted to be one of these validators. It's not just if you've got $10 million,
you've got the money, we'll take you. It's
exactly.
Not like that. Yeah.
You need to comply to some of their rule sets. With that being said, that means that they are either saying yes or no to people. Yeah, meaning that they are being selective on who they're letting in to potentially be a validator, and so-called competition, which also means that they could have some form of influence into these other different various companies. But of course, erring into the realm of speculation.
Yep.
But that is very much a real scenario, meaning that they can set whatever policy that they want, or if they want to, of course, reverse certain transactions. If you have allowed all of these people through the door, 9 times out of 10, it's not just going to be some random person. There is a relationship there, meaning that you will be able to organize these things.
Yeah, it's an interesting way of looking at it, and I think that it's a very, very prudent point to make. I think that there are concerns also around the projects and the way that it will work forward. As we know, these very large companies don't come at something without an agenda. There's always an agenda behind large companies as to what they're trying to achieve from something, and I think that that's a very valid point to make. So yeah, I think one thing now that I'd like to do is really kick into really the hurdles that Libra are going to face. We've seen obviously a lot about Facebook, and it's been widely reported, but what has been coming to light over the last sort of 28 to 48 hours has been the actual point of how they're going to work with regulators, how this is going to get pushed into the mainstream. So a couple of points that I wanted to put out there, just that I'd seen out of a few articles that were quite interesting, was Facebook's cryptocurrency plans were met with a swift critical response from politicians in both the United States and Europe. Now, I think this was to be expected. We've spoken about it a lot, the Analytica scandal that was facing Facebook in the first place. They've already proven time and time again that they can't be trusted with our data. So if we have this large institution that's sitting out there who are turning around and saying, okay, we've now got your social media data, we've also got advertisement that we're going to work through the data that we're receiving through that, and now what we want to do is also take control of your finances, because at the end of the day, as we said, this is a centralized decentralized model. We're entrusting that they're going to look after the funds that are in their bank account, which are backed up within the currencies. And that's something that I find quite concerning. I know that me and you've spoke on this before this episode anyway. So it's something that's a concern for both of us, I feel.
Yeah, that is a massive concern. This stems into the question of why. Why would they do this? Why would they pick this time to do it as well, especially when Facebook is being scrutinized so much? And why would they release it in the way that they released it? Mm-hmm. Even though they're going through their process, Facebook and of course Mark Zuckerberg as well, being questioned on the data analytica scandal that has broken out, they still release their coin. Why would you not wait? Try to be one of the first regulated coins out of the gate, because they still do have influence at that level, which they are. Why would you not try and structure a regulated coin and then roll it out? Does it mean that regulation is that far away, that there was no form of framework at all? Because bear in mind, they are not a stupid company. He's surrounded by many experts, and you're talking about lawyers as well, that would have vetted through all of this information. So even though that these regulators are speaking out now, I'm very sure they would have got all of their ducks in the line and pre-handled some of these things. So it's just going to be interesting to see how that manifests.
On that, though, I think it's interesting because if you take, for example, the global meetings around finance and all the rest of it, up until this point, what we've heard a lot of the time is that, cryptocurrencies are not large enough to be considered as a worry at the moment. Therefore, regulators do not need to rush towards ensuring that regulation forms into place, all of this kind of stuff. Now, don't you think it's interesting how that kind of alarm bell went off when Facebook started making that noise? They're scared. They know that they're scared because of the reasons why they should be. At the end of the day, they know if Facebook come into this sector, they have a huge following through the fact of how many people are already operating through Facebook entities. And we're not just talking about Facebook, we're talking about all the companies that Facebook owns as well. That is the reach that they actually have. And that reach is what's caused all of these kind of financial regulators to kind of wake up a little bit to it. And that kind of segues us back nicely towards that regulation side of things, which is quite good. So the US Senate Banking Committee scheduled a hearing on the Libra plans and data privacy concerns for the 16th of July. So again, what we're now starting to see is that they are really taking this seriously, and what they now want to do is find out more. Not only that, but we had, for example, Maxine Waters, a Californian Democrat, called Facebook on Tuesday to basically halt development plans. She wasn't happy that all of this stuff is just racing ahead. Hang on a minute, just stop what you're doing while we catch up. Well, sorry, but that's not exactly how the world works. They need to speed up and they need to regulate this space how they need to. They shouldn't be asking actors within the space to, just stop what you're doing and the millions of pounds that you're going to lose while this is happening. Just carry on doing this. It's just ridiculous, to be quite honest. Regulators need to catch up. This has been out for nearly a decade. This is getting silly, in my opinion.
Yeah, I completely agree. And you got to ask, what are they actually even trying to accomplish in the first place, which is a stable coin. And the way the stable coin is structured, how we mentioned earlier, is the fact that it's of course backed by various different currencies. Mm-hmm. Then you come into the realm of, okay, if that is the case, is it an ETF? Is it a security? I think that is why the regulators are now starting to come out with a very aggressive stance. Yep. Now, even the fact that they are currently creating a stable coin, they want to be able to service all of these other different countries that are currently going through their experiences of whether it's hyperinflation, whether it's failing governments, and be able to provide those individuals with a currency that they can actually use and transact whenever they want in a stable and responsible way. Now, again, this may be airing into the whole area of speculation again, but I just sat there and I was asking why? Because if you look at it like this, you have all of these different companies, which are huge companies that are going to be the validators. Of course, it's not comprised of some of the banks that are out there. And of course, this is just from the information that we have to hand at the moment. Mm-hmm. It's not comprised of some of the banks that are, of course, out there. And it's not comprised of some of the top tech firms. Yeah. Now, we know that fiat currencies have a shelf life. A lot of these companies have huge holdings of fiat currency. Yeah. Now, if you're creating a payment realm, so to speak, where you can inject your capital into something, change it into what's deemed to be a stable coin, which bear in mind will be borderless. At that particular point, you have now taken all of this money that you had, like for example, China's capital controls.
Yep.
You've taken all this money that you had sitting there because you couldn't really do too much with it. You couldn't move it about because more than likely you're going to incur taxes. You have all of this money that is now injected into this ecosystem that you can move about wherever you want to move it about. And that is one angle I thought of it could potentially be on the reasoning on why they're actually doing this, because we've seen from time and time again, like Facebook isn't a company for the people.
Yep. I think also an interesting point, and I think we can wrap up after this one, is that they're obviously backing this on a stable coin, right? And like you said, it's backed on a basket of currencies, which is going to do that. Now, what they're alluding to is that they're going to change the financial system for the better going forward. Yeah. Well, why would you take a general kind of fiat currency basket to change the way that the finances are going to work with this project and the way that we know money today? It's like you're going backwards but forwards and then kind of ending up in the same place, in my opinion. I think that that's a very interesting stance that they've taken, that's for sure.
And of course, they came out saying that they're not effectively setting monetary policy. They're not really and truly creating new money into circulation.
Yep.
Because the way that new tokens are created and new tokens get destroyed, if I pump £10 into circulation, then they just create the equivalent amount of tokens to then, of course, give me my value.
Yep.
So it will grow as more money gets pumped in, and as money gets taken out, those coins are just burnt. So it will just be a system that is designed to completely adhere to supply and demand. So it will just continually grow and continually shrink. So that is why straight out of the gates, it will have a stable value. Now, like I said, when we first started off, it is very refreshing to see a very corporate structure come into place. Now, I do think this is a good thing. Facebook coming in and, of course, with their marketing power, they're also marketing it to all of their users. So, of course, bringing up the awareness of the crypto space in general. And we've seen interest hike as well, because it's the same thing. We've experienced it as a company. We have direct communication with, of course, retail clients. Sure. And we've just seen that up as of recently. So there is a direct impact as to how this is all sort of manifesting. What we are also really starting to notice is that people don't like it. They really don't like it. And I completely understand why. It's just because of all of the stuff that completely surrounds it, between Facebook, between Mark Zuckerberg, between the fact that we have now got completely free decentralized information where we can access at any given point. It's educating these people to the point where they're really starting to understand what underpins a lot of these companies, how they make their money, and people just don't like it.
Yeah, and I think that's an absolute perfect spot to wrap up this episode now. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. If you do like what you're seeing, hit up that notification button. You can listen to us through Spotify and iTunes, and you can see a whole host of content through Bitstocks website. That's including blogs and all of that kind of nature of stuff. So yeah, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. We'll look forward to catching up with you soon. Cheers, goodbye.
Peace and love.